That's blurry. All right. Good morning. How'd the warm-up go? Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, medium. Okay, cool. Let's do it. Let's start from scratch. Let's get going. So I'm not going to be in New Year anymore. I'm going to be in reverse, I guess we'll call it. Or what should we call it? Yeah, we'll call it. So we're gonna. What's the first thing we do when we want to create a React app? Awesome, right? Great React app. Come up with a cool, sexy name that has something to do with what we're doing. I'm actually gonna call it React Review for now. Oh right, I did that yesterday. I love continuing to write in camel case, but great React app takes only snake case. So before we really get into it, and while we're waiting, the same thing as yesterday, like what were some of the main troubles with this one? With this warm up? What do we find difficult? What was having stuff reveal after the fact? Okay. What else? What else? How many of us drink coffee this morning? Maybe that was a mistake. We should all be raising our hand. Let's wake up. Okay. I said well, what were some of the difficulties with the warm up? I got so many middles and downs. I want to know what were some of what we struggled on. If I don't know what we struggled on, I can't really address that.
I think it was the function, trying to get the user input, the function to get to work.
Okay.
So I did the user input split join.
Okay.
Trying to get this user input into there. I guess I was like mixing things up and then to render it afterwards.
And then to render it afterwards. Okay.
To just throw it into a tag.
Great. That's something we could definitely address. Anything else that people want to add?
Or yeah, I'm having problems
rendering anything to a page. Okay. It's definitely something we can address. Also sounds like something like if you're getting snagged up on a bug or something, you might want to call Xavier over too. But we're going to start from scratch, so hopefully we kind of follow along. We should be okay. Okay. So how do we start a React app? Yeah, we CD'd in. Great.
And him start.
Thank you, Nikki. Good assist, Eric. Good. And so I don't care how you get it. Very happy. Okay, so this is still left over from yesterday, which is going to go away soon once the server really gets going. Should also open up an Atom file. And that Atom file is opening on my computer. I wonder if I'll be able to highlight today. We'll see. Okay, let's make sure everything is hunky-dory. Okay, so let's go over again just like what exactly we have here. We have a public folder. This is keeping track of our favicon. It's keeping track of our index.html page. So inside of here, we have what's linking us to our favicon here on line 5. And then we have our title, which is calling React app. I'm going to call it reverse, since that's what we're going to be doing today. I don't think I spelled that right. I think that's close enough. Maybe I'll change it to an entirely different word that I for sure know how to spell. And then we've got our div with just like a root in there. And this is going to be so we can grab this and we will use this to render our entire application through it in our index.js, which is over in source. And our index.js says, hey, I want you to grab that element, which we just saw on the HTML page, and I want you to render this inside of that. Inside of this, I want it to actually just be this, and I'm using this react.dom.render to do that. It's something we have available, and it's going to be what is visually getting things going for us. Questions so far? All right. So from there, we're rendering this app. And so what does app have on it? Well, we can kind of guess just from looking at this even. And I can open up this, and I can look at the elements. And if I look inside of our root, I can see that we have a div, and we have a header, and we have this image tag, and we have this p tag, and we have this a tag. And then if we actually go and check, let's see if how accurate we are. Oh, we're extremely accurate, right? We've got our header, we've got our image, our p tag, and a tag. So it's exactly what we saw when we inspected the page. Still okay? So we don't need any of this stuff because we are still going to just be writing our own things. And I don't need this logo. And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to save that. Yeah.
Sometimes I delete things that I think that I don't need, and then the entire thing breaks. Like, how do I differentiate between something that's going to break my code and not?
Sure. So part of that is like some things they might accidentally break just as you're deleting things. And if you read the error, sometimes it's just like, oh, you're still trying to import something that you've just deleted. And that's fine. You just have to go to the other page and delete that import. But I guess part of that is more of like just knowing what you do need and stuff. And for that, you need your index.js where you have your React DOM render. You need everything in here. You don't necessarily need this index.css. And then you need inside of your app. That's all you need for that. In your HTML, everything that's been commented out, you can get rid of. Yeah, this is all. It's just a class. I mean, you could change that, but if I get rid of that, like if I change the name of this, then I'm going to get this error, right? So if I'm like, okay, I'm actually just going to write a different component somewhere, and I'm not going to export this anymore, we're going to get this error. Let's track it down. Attempted import error. Okay, maybe it has something to do with importing. App does not contain a default export. That really helps us, so let's pretend I didn't even read that. I can also, like, because I go, well, I know app doesn't have a default because I no longer have an app. Okay, that's fair. So I look here and it goes, oh, this is happening in our source index.js. So I'm going to go, what's going on there? And it goes, oh, well, I'm importing app here. I comment that out. And then there's going to be a different error, right? It's going to say app is not defined. Why is my app not defined? Oh, because I'm using it here, but I never imported it. So you just have to kind of read the errors. And the more familiar, like purposely break things sometimes, just to see what it does, what it shows you. And then when it catches you by accident, you'll go, oh, I know this one. And that's a great feeling because it's terrifying to see a new error unintentionally for the first time. It's not that terrifying, but it's like, it's a mental schlep. All right, so we've got our app, and let's make a warm-up component. So I'm going to go into source. Just like the other day, I'm going to say new file, which I'm going to call. I'm going to keep with what I was doing yesterday and make everything count. The proud camel case.js. This keeps it easy for me. Okay, how do I start it off? Perfect. Import React from React. This is something that we've written so many times by now. Hopefully that it's starting to become a bit more automatic. So we can say class. We make our class, which we decided was going to be called warm-up. Extends React.component. Then what's the next boilerplate piece of code? Instructor, thank you. Instructor. And then super. Thanks for asking. And then we will do render. Okay, we always need a render. Every render needs a return, right? The function needs a return. And inside of this, we can just, well, we've all been into this React fragment thing, so I'll stick with it and say, howdy, cowboy. And we don't see anything. Why don't we see anything? Right, we haven't exported. Export default warm up. What else do I need to do? Probably need to import. Every export has an import, right? So that's how you can remember it. That's how I remember it. Super embarrassing, but I tend to remember. And we can import warm up from / warm up. I don't know if I even need to write JS. I don't think so. And we have to still put it inside, right? So I'm going to go angle bracket, warm up. And now we're expecting to see howdy. And we do. Right there, front and center. Why is it front and center? Probably because one of those other CSSs that was already in there from app CSS or index.css. If I was building my own application, I'd probably delete all of their CSSs and put in only my own, starting with a CSS reset. But for the warm-up, I'm not going to really bother myself with that. Okay, did we all get this far? No? Okay. Absolutely. So warmup.js, we've got just the most bare bones component that we can make. Who's not coding along? Just so I can kind of figure out how I'm going to paste things. Okay, so everybody's coding along? Oh, okay. So just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. I'm still waiting. Yeah.
Do you have like good
How come I don't have div wrapped around my howdy? Fair. So why might I need div wrapped around my howdy?
When you have what JSX.
Cool. So yeah, so previously in React and before React Fragment came along, we had to put everything inside of a div. Maybe that's what you're getting familiar seeing. With React Fragment, which is a newer thing to come, it's saying, hey, you no longer need to have everything in one div. I could also have like another div. But if I want to do that, I have to do something called React Fragment, which goes React.Fragment. Ay, ay, ay. Oops. Right. So, and React Fragment says, hey, when we render this component, we're going to act like it's in a div, but when we actually show it, there won't be a div. It's just going to be these two divs that we have. The shorthand of React Fragment is what I was doing, which is that. That's where that's coming from. It's a shorthand of React Fragment, which is allowing us to no longer wrap everything in just one div. The howdy is just totally so I can see that there's something coming from this component. Give me thumbs up if you need more time. Okay, let's rock and roll. So we've got our howdy doody. Oh man, I broke something. That's this random X. The X-Men, X-Bugs. Okay, so now let's get to like kind of the crux of the problem, right? I don't actually have it available to me right now, but if I'm remembering, it says it should render a component that has an input and then that displays whatever the user's typing in reverse, right? Okay, so what's the first thing we think we're going to need? A form, or that's so a form is a great guess or like step. But for this, I would even say like, do we really need a form? Are they really filling out a whole form? They definitely need an input, yeah. All right, so does that make sense? We're not actually going to be filling out an entire form and having them submit stuff. We're just going to have them writing. So if we're just going to have them writing, we're not really going to be doing anything really fancy. We can just do the minimal amount of work for this, which would be an input tag. So let's say input. But what else does an input tag need? Type text for this. Okay. It doesn't always have to be text. There will be different types for inputs. Do we want to add a placeholder? Do we not? What are we thinking? Nah, right? We can just write text higher up that tells the user the rules, right? If we really want to, if it's not just for us, we could just say like type or word, right?
What about a name?
What about a name? Sure, you could have a name. I don't know if we're going to need to, but we definitely can. I really don't think we're going to need it. But let's put it in anyway, and we can just say data, right? That's all it is. Yeah, Kelly. I don't think we're going to need an ID. We might if we want to do some styling, or if we want to add a label to it for people who can't see, which is for like accessibility, which wouldn't be like a bad idea. All right, so let's just say that that's enough. How does an input get its information? What else does inputs tend to have? Thank you. Yeah, right. Inputs have a value. And we'll go, okay, a value. What should that value be? Eric. Great. So Eric says, well, we don't know the value yet. We got to do something with state, essentially. And I go, yeah, that sounds good. We know we're going to be typing. We know we're in React. We know we're in a class component. So we're probably going to be using some state. So let's just make a pause for a minute and go up to our constructor. And we'll start with we'll create a state object. So let's say this.state. Oops. And what do we want in our state? Sorry? Output. We already gave something a name, so I'm going to stick with the name. Just say data. Doesn't really matter what we're calling it. We only are dealing with one input right now. And a good initial thing for that would be is what? Empty. Great. So then how do we show that? How does our value reflect that? Janelle? Perfect. Janelle says it's this.state.data. So that's great. So I'm going to save that. Go back to our page. We now have like this. Oh, I have to fix, but nothing happens. Oh no. I'm click-clacking away here, right? We don't see anything. Why? Can somebody tell me why?
Didn't have set state.
Totally, right? I'm not setting the state. I'm not doing anything. I'm just randomly clicking, and it's just saying, yeah, the value is an empty string. Enjoy ruining your keyboard, right? So we have to add some sort of event handler. So I'm going to add an event called handle change. And I'll do it I'll do it the way I always like to do it. And we'll add that event to here. So what's the event that I should have on an input? What's an event that makes sense for an input? What kind of listener? Unchanged. Why? Because every time I type something in, a change has occurred. Right. Do we understand the difference between on-click, on-change, and on-submit? Oh, okay. Yeah, that might work. Yeah. Sabina? Okay. Yeah. So on-change is listening for any change, anything that happens that's changing something on the screen. On-change is listening for that. Mateo?
On-change, do you have that on input, or does it have to be?
It can be on an input.
Can you have more on-change?
Yeah. Definitely. Well.
What the difference between on-click and on-submit?
Okay, great. So on-submit is a listener that we're going to use for forms. So whenever a form is submitted, and this will become from a button with the type of submit, this will come from a form with on-submit. So sometimes, I don't know, I'm sure you've probably done this before. Let me see where exactly. Well, Slack, right? Have you ever gone to hit enter to go to the next line on Slack and you realize you just sent it up? Right? There's no way I'm the only one that that's happened to 100 times. We can't learn it, but that's a different thing. I don't know why. But we can recognize that that's a behavior of Slack, right? Because when we go to write something to somebody else, you're essentially filling out some type of form. And the form is listening for a submission. And hitting enter is a type of submission. So when you hit enter, it submits whatever you've written in there. And then you go, whoa, I wasn't done. And then if you type fast enough, then it continues, which is, but if you slow, it doesn't. So anyway, but that's like a whole Slack thing. But that's, so when we're dealing with a form, if we want somebody to be able to hit enter to submit it, or click on the button to submit it, of the type submit, those are all going to submit. While on click is only going to be listening for a click. So you'll want to use on click for anything else that you're not actually using to go submit information. But if you're listening for a change, you want to use on change. Jen.
I don't understand how a listener is on change. Like, is click not a change?
Click is not a change. Click is just a click. A change is something that's like visually happening.
Like as I'm typing, it's changing the state as like each letter. But if it's on click, I can put my own name and then click and that's when the state changes.
Davey?
He said, preferably only on the form you would have on submit.
Yeah.
But on the button, should I have on submit or on click?
For just a random button?
But like the button happens to be inside a form.
So then you would still put an on submit on, if that button is for submission purposes inside of that form, the on submit goes on the form.
Oh, okay.
Always.
So what is the button? Oh, okay.
Well, in that situation, nothing. Because that button will have a type that says submit. We'll make a form in a little bit, and we can go over it again. Leo?
Originally I was thinking it's only a button is clickable. In fact, it's similar. Any element is clickable.
Exactly. Great point. Every element is clickable. We can click on any element. Good observation.
Meanwhile, the summation is mentioned. If we type it enter, it's a kind of summation.
That's right. Yeah, so hitting enter is a type of submission.
So for the button is better used click rather than
Well,
summation.
if the button is inside of a form, the button should be type submit, and you should have an on submit listener on the form.
How about outside?
Well, if the button is just like click this button to see movies, that would just be a click listener. Yeah, Jen.
How are you getting records to
They're currently not.
and oh, not right now.
Not yet. That's what we're.
What is your Facebook flavor? I see types your words. No, I mean like the actual type or
Yeah.
words. I see it on your page.
Yeah.
I'm asking how did you get that?
I wrote it right here. That shows up, and it eliminates the white space. All right, I'm gonna keep going here. So we got our handle change, and our handle change has to listen for an event of on change. So we're gonna add that to our input. So we're gonna say, hey, I'll move it up closer so it stays on screen. And I go on change. We want to fire this handle change event. So we're going to say, hey, this dot handle change. So we've got this event. Since I'm writing this in ES5 style, what should I do? gonna bind it. Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna go this dot handle change is equal to this dot handle change dot bind this. And now every time I make a change, I'm gonna hit this debugger. And so this is also gonna take in an event. And I'm gonna put a debugger right here. So right now we have an input that's listening for a change. So anytime anyone types anything into this input, we're going to fire off this function that we've just written called handle change. It takes in an event. The event, everything is going to be bound because we are binding the current scope of this to it. And we're going to be able to see the event, and we have a value here that's supposed to reflect what's currently in our state under data. Yeah, Jen.
Can I see the end of that line?
There you go. And so let's try it out. So go here, type in the letter H, and we can take a console log and we can go, okay, I know I typed in the letter H. Let's take a look at our event. Where should I look? Event.target. So if I look at event.target, I see, oh, my target was this input. From there, I can look at what type of attributes I've given to this input. I can say .name, which we put in, probably put a data in. I can do a value, be like, oh, it's got an H in there. I can look at my state, currently empty. So hypothetically, I should be able to do this .set state data event target value. And I'm getting that from just observing my event and comparing it to what I have for my state. So I'm going to go here, remove our debugger. How do I change the state?
Oh, he's right.
What?
Oh, it's not safe.
This set state. Yeah, that's good.
It's brackets again.
Not quite. So now we gotta hit the key that we want to change. So the change that we want to happen is our data. So currently our only thing in our input. So I'm gonna say data. And where do we want the value to be of that data? Perfect. Thank you, Mark. So we're gonna go event.target.value. And now, let's try it again. Now when we type, okay, we've got the letters following our type. Yeah, Thomas. Yeah, so right, if I didn't want to have data here because I was listening to lots of different inputs, I might do event.target.name. That also would work. Yeah, because see, if we look here at our input, we've got this name data. And so if I had another input that was for like last name, I would give that the name last name. And our state would also say last name. And so then I would go in at the key in our state of last name, because that would be this name. And if the change happened in this input, the name would be the data. So we'd be able to listen to multiple changes on our form in the same spot. Event.target.name we saw was data. But if I had a different input, this name could say something else like email, and then event.target.name would be the word email. Yeah.
Please repeat why you as the targets of the name of certain.
So that's just part of the syntax. If I remove the brackets, we'll get a compiling error. It'll say like, hey, we can't do that. It'll say there's a parsing error because it's going to already be looking at it as like some kind of thing. I don't really know why it's like that. But this the correct syntax that it's got to have that brackets. And this is something you'll do a bit, and you'll do more of it in the next season as well. Yeah.
I think that is like React fragment or
This is React fragment. Great question. We're not asked if on line 18 and 22 if that is representing a div or a React fragment, and I'm saying it is a React fragment. Great question. Okay. So we could write it like this, or we can keep things simpler for now even and just write data, because we're only dealing with one input. There's only one thing in state we want to change. We can change. Right. Make sure it still works. Cool. Okay, so now was the next thing that a lot of us had a bit more trouble on, which was like, how do we display this text? Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we can start. We can put it. We should start with deciding what kind of tag we want to put it in. I guess. Do we care? What do we think? P tag, sure. Let's do P tag. Well, how do we reverse a string? What's the easiest way for us to split, reverse, join? Okay. And how do we access the string that we want to do that to? Diana? Eric? Right, okay, so this .state.data, we'll start with that, is going to currently represent everything that I type. Right? Because it's just mirroring our state. So now how do we reverse it? I heard a bunch of people say we can do .split, reverse, join. Sure. We can do that. Go here. I'm going to be yerock xvodal. Or xvodal, yerock, I guess. Yeah.
Can you put that inside the handle click?
Can we put it inside of our hand? Yeah. Like right here?
Like above the set state. Is that possible?
Yeah, totally, right? I could also just put it here. Like reverse. All the split, reverse, join. Put it here, I could remove it to here. Then my state is going to have it backwards all the time, which maybe I want, maybe I don't want. Totally up to you. Personally, I don't want that.
Corey, does spell check works in a similar way where instead of mirroring the data you enter, just change?
What do you mean the spell check work?
Like, let's say you wanted, like, you type Corey, let's say you wanted the first letter to be capital. It moves place and types that's in the box by.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could also have made this a separate function, right? I could have even said like reverse word, or I could just go this.state data. I don't know if this is fully answering your question, but And then inside of here, we just do like just reverse word. Yeah, but
Quick question.
oh, that doesn't seem to work.
P tag and stuff.
Why doesn't that work? Yeah.
Should it be like inside the curly brackets, or is it okay to have just be there?
Is it okay to have a P tag there? Is the yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to have it like the brackets and say if there's data, then put the data first. Else just
I mean, it just depends on what you care about designing your app, and if you care if there's an element there or not. For me, I didn't care if there's an empty P tag for this. Oh, that's what it is. Cool. All right, we have to still return our functions.
What I was saying is that you see in the box like the type Corey, can you replace that Corey by another text?
Here?
Yeah, in that same box, can you replace it by any other thing?
Yeah. I would just have to set it up so my value says that. It'd be a really weird experience for the user to type in that box.
Oh,
And have it.
that's what I'm saying. It's like if you have a spelling error and then you have a function to fix that error, then it will just display that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it'd be a lot harder to, I mean, you're talking about making an entire, like, spell checker, which is, like, really would be a project. Okay?
For the object destructuring, sometimes they're weird and gets placed so bad you want to type out this that state that data each time.
Yeah, so that, do you understand how it's working, or just you don't understand where it's going?
I don't understand where it's going.
Okay. Well, at the top, before the return. So I could say let data this dot state. And now I just have data. No problem. Yeah, Kelly. No, I don't mind. Let's put a debugger here. So, we don't have anything yet. That's interesting. Hang on, let me just, oh, I can't see anything. Okay, that's fine. Oops. Okay, so now we actually have some letters in there, right? And we hit our debugger, and we can look at this dot state dot data. We get core. Now, if I were to go this dot state dot data dot split. Split is a built-in JavaScript function that splits on whatever I specify if I pass in an argument. And when I do this, it means it's going to split between every single character and turn it into an array. So it looks like core. Yeah, that's it.
why is that for just your block?
Oh, because it hasn't had a chance to re-render yet. It's not done. We've paused in the render. When I hit continue, it will show the okay, so does that part make sense? Okay, so we write that again, but this time we type in reverse. Reverse is another built-in JavaScript method that works on the array class. And so when I invoke this, oops, I guess I already had invoked it. We now get it backwards. So we get erock. So far so good. We do that again, and now we can use join, another built-in method that's on the array class, and it's going to join us with whatever I put inside of here. It's going to put in between each element of the array, and so when it has nothing in there, it doesn't add anything new to it, and so then it turns it into a string, and so we get erock. So that's what that line's doing. All right, and here you go, Mateo, erock. Yeah. Yep.
You make your own methods, functions. Can you put arguments or just get everything by doing this state and then whatever's in the state got it?
I mean, it depends on the type of situation. For something like this and stuff, I would definitely just take it from the state.
What are the situations we get these arguments?
Maybe if I'm passing, well, I haven't really got to it yet. But I guess if I was passing a piece of information to a different thing that a different component's going to use to update its state, I might pass something in. Jen?
Well, part of it is letting you type into the box.
What part of it's letting me type into the box? Got an input tag. Its value is being reflected to be that whatever data is in the state. And then it's listening for any type of change. And that change is updating the state to reflect whatever I've typed. That's it.
Reverse the data in the value.
Yeah. But then I have a backwards thing in my state, which is fine, but maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want to use, maybe I just want them to display that, but in my back end, I want to go send information of their full name and stuff. Yeah, because this is what's going to be in the state. So I could definitely reverse it here, but not going to.
Oh no.
Oh, just praying.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else on the warm up here?
When I put tobacco inside packaging and I type in this state of data, it comes up empty even after I type in that. But then when I type in that target value, that shows up. That's kind of what
Can you walk me through so I can reproduce what's going on?
the debugger is on the
Right here?
yeah.
Okay.
And then in letter. And then in console, it's the state of data.
Okay. That's
But
empty.
then that target value. Which is the same thing.
Oh, it hasn't been updated yet. So when we are first enter this handle change, our state is empty. Our data is still empty, and then we've fired off an event because it just happened, and so now we're updating the state here. This FYI is an asynchronous thing, so even if I put the debugger underneath, you won't be seeing the state changed yet. But then it will. But set state does what? What does it do? What's it like? Two main things. Yeah. Yeah. Updates the state and then re-renders. Thank you, Trey. Right. So then we're going to be able to see the changes occur after we've made the change. Yeah. Yeah, Jen.
Can you please go line 9?
Yeah, sure. Line 9 is binding the scope of this component. So the entire class here, this component is being passed into our handle change so that when we're inside of this, handle change is a callback function. And it's therefore invoked with style. Callback functions are invoked with style. Of the three types of invocation, what type is the callback function? Shazam. Yeah. Callbacks are invoked function style. There's method style, constructor style, and function style. Callbacks are invoked function style, which means that their scope has nothing to do with what just happened, but it's only within themselves. So when we're binding, We're saying, hey, this is your scope. So this handle change has the scope of the whole app instead of just what's inside of itself. That's it.
So I get the handle change event ES5 that will tell you find this to it. This is not the arrow function.
Yep.
How can we do that first?
Because I am not calling it based off of a callback. I'm just calling it every time as part of the class. Yeah.
I didn't really understand.
All right. So which part?
Okay, so I got that it's function style, but I don't understand the importance of that.
It's a scoping issue. So when we invoke a function style, its scope becomes like the window.
Like the whole thing.
Yeah, like the window. While we want the scope to actually be this class component. And so we're binding this so that our handle change when invoke function style still has the correct scope. Okay?
So you're saying that line 9, we have to bind because we're using the ES5?
Because we're using ES5. ES6, fat arrows bind at the scope that they were created. However, just know if you want to look at a debugger with ES6, you'll still have to bind it because Chrome's debugging tools aren't quite there yet. But it will work if you don't need the debugger and stuff. Yep.
So without that line, we couldn't access this in any other part besides the very top.
Well, everywhere else, just not inside of handle change, which is the only function that's being invoked, function style. But we could also have written it like this, and then finding is like being extra confusing or difficult. You should write it like this,
And then we can get rid of.
because then we don't need this. However, you won't be able to use the debugger nearly as effectively like this unless you bind.
But we're going to still see this like both ES5 and ES6.
Everywhere, all the time. Yeah. If you're working with different Reacts and different companies, yeah, you'll see both. A friend of mine got hired and he was given like a whole component in ES5. So it didn't say class or anything. It was just like an object that was like React.create component or whatever. And it's like, whoa. He didn't know what to do at first. He like barely recognized it as React. Still got the job. He's getting paid about $95,000. Right, so this is good stuff to know. Good? Jen?
Inside of reverse, this dot state dot delta, where are we accessing that? This dot state?
This is not being invoked outside of the scope as a callback, so we have access to it here. It's being invoked method style, because it's being called on this. And a method style invocation keeps the this of what it was called on.
Could we have both the function style just pointing to this inside of the reverse loop?
Possibly, but that would be kind of starting to get into like a weird like way of coding. Mateo?
I guess maybe question depending on that. Do we do that? You have that arrow one, you have friends, big arrow.
You want this to be ES6?
Or not down below.
Oh.
Or does that change? Is that what you're in?
Yeah, we probably could, but if I'm doing all of a function down there, I wouldn't write it up here, and I would have just kept with what I had before, which was this line 18. But the goal is to always keep it as simple as possible, not to, we definitely don't want to try to overcomplicate it. Yeah.
What's happening on
we are calling reverse word so that the word will appear in the opposite direction. Every time we hit render, we call this function.
And if we wanted that to appear in take up the keypad, and the what's in the curly braces would be assigned to the value.
If we wanted the reverse word in an input box,
Yeah. So like instead of it appearing in just the keypad, it's appearing in the box.
sure, yeah, the value would be assigned to this dot reverse word. That should be fine. Yeah.
Why do we have at the bottom calling reverse word?
In order to display it, because this is going to return the string backwards, and so that's going to become the backward string here. This is going to evaluate to a reverse string. Matteo?
So is that why we invoke it there, we don't invoke it on handle change?
Yeah, handle change is listen is a callback function listening for an event. There's an event handler waiting, and as soon as this happens, we call this function. This function is being called every time, method style. Good questions. Yeah.
You said if we don't have why, when you, like, no, you don't get to that debugger.
Right. Well, we'll hit here. I'll show you. So we'll hit the debugger, but we won't. And it's everything will work, but if we want to use the debugger, we don't have access to state. We don't have access. This is undefined. You do have access to the event, and sometimes, like for this problem, that's what I would do. I don't need the debugger for this because I'm only changing the key of data. I know exactly what my inputs come in event target.value. I'm confident enough to know, like, I don't need a debugger for this. But if anything went wrong, you bet I'm writing this and going, all right, well, what the heck's going on here? And going, okay, well, this, that's state. And you go, oh, okay, that's my state. I've been spelling it with a Q, you know. Which is, yeah.
Can you go down to the keypad?
Sure. All right, so by thumbs up, thumbs down, middle, how do we feel in this warm up now if we were assigned to do it again? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to move on because I think that's a positive enough percentage. Great, and that's really exciting. Almost everybody was up there. That's great. Okay, for those of you who are still struggling, like definitely seek out some additional help from us. But I don't want to keep everybody. Okay. What's that? 5 minutes. We started so late. We've only been in lecture for about 40 minutes. Okay, we'll do a 3-minute break. All right. That's really all we need. I mean, we've only been in lecture for 40 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. So sickness is oh, I have some big well, now I don't get to this. The thing is, you know, checks for this. But I'm pretty sure sorry, yeah.
This is the value. And depending on yeah, but no, is that So what's happening?
I'm expecting that after I check out my phone, see, and at the end of my comment, consistently runs until we go back to the back, and then it's go into and I told you
So this is the change.
All right. Let's close the door. All right, clap once if you can hear my voice. Clap twice if you can hear my voice. Clap 3 times if you can hear my voice. Clap once if you can still hear Jonathan's voice. Okay. It's all right, Jonathan. All good. Okay. Just kind of messing around there a little bit. Okay, so we've got the warm up. We've got the setting of state. Let's just go from this warm up and continue to make a form of that. Okay. So if we wanted a form and we didn't want it, I guess we'll just like leave this reverse word as it is. But so we could do some kind of form tag, right? If we're gonna write a form, we should have a form tag. So I'm gonna write form, form. I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna do this in its own. Oh, we don't need to mess up with this. We'll start again. We'll be able to see everything clean again. Okay. So we're gonna do new file, and I'm gonna call it profile.js. And how do we start a new class component? Yep. So we're gonna say import React from React. And then we got to do what? Sure, we're gonna export, okay. Default, what are we gonna export? Profile, okay. Probably should make that profile then. So let's say class profile. What to do? Nice. Flexible. Extends React.component. What's our next piece of boilerplate? Constructor. Max, I like that too. Why? It's the same thing every single time, and it's annoying that I even have to write it. That's why I'm calling it that. Like, here, check this out. I've got this set up, so if I do RCD, maybe I don't have it anymore. I might have got rid of it. Oh, well, I used to have it set up where I could just type RCD, maybe that's my computer at home, and then I hit tab, and then it does all of this for me, because it's always the same thing. Andre?
You could put that kind of setup on your new text editor.
Yeah, you could. I want you to make sure you know this, because if somebody asks you to whiteboard a component and you like have no idea how to write a component, that's gonna look like you don't really know React, even if you do. But once you feel good at this, then yeah, of course, add stuff that helps you, makes it faster, so you don't have to write the same crap every single time. Although in the future, we'll see that we don't actually need a constructor anymore. That saves our time a little bit. But we still always need a render, so can't get around that. And I'm just gonna do turn, because I'm definitely gonna need that. And we'll do a React fragment. I'm gonna try to roll all my R's today. Those different sizes, or is that just an optical illusion?
was last time.
I think this is an optical illusion. Whoa! This is totally trippy, and I'm wearing tie-dye, so. Anyway, all right, so let's call this profile. So let's create maybe like a form, and we can say form. And I don't think we need to do all of like the different input types and stuff. I mean, we could do, of course, we can do some of them or more if we need, but a lot of it's kind of the same concept over and over again. So if we can understand one input tag like really comfortably, and another one we probably can start to understand the other or be able to finagle it. Okay, so what do we want to do with our form? What kind of information do we want to have on our profile? Name? Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's do name. Okay. Let's make a label. And we'll say label. We can put HTML for. We'll make a name. Okay. Name.
Can you just explain again what the HTML does?
This is going to point at the ID of what it's a label for. So we haven't written the ID, but that's a good idea. Thank you. So now this is pointing to this.
Should it be name or should it be the same
It just needs to be
ID and it should
just needs to be pointing to the ID.
I know, but I'm asking HTML4 and ID should be the same, have same value like name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. These two items will always be identical. Whether they say cat or crumpet or Cuba. Yep.
How are you using ID instead of like names equal to name?
I'm going to also do that. Sounds like a good idea. We should use the name. We're going to say name is equal to name. This is for the ID I'm using for that is for that label. So that this has a thing to point to. It doesn't highlight still. So line 11's 4 has something to point to in line 12. Okay, so what's okay, so we can actually decide everything that we really need for our profile now, right? With the this.state. We know we're going to do state because that's kind of like been the pretty big pattern of the days. So we said we want a name. Not done. Yeah. What else do we want for our profile? Sure, email, I like that. That's 2 text inputs, right? So that's probably enough for that. Okay, we could do like a birthday. Sure. So DOB. How are we gonna store that information? Do we want to store it as a string? Do we want to store it? No, I guess we'll store it. I'll store it as a string for now. Yeah. What? Not at this point in our careers. Oh, eventually there will be an ID, like if this is, but we wouldn't get to create it. It would be created when we have a user, and if we went to that user's profile, we would make a fetch request to go get that user's information based off of like the ID and the params or the name. So we're not quite there yet, but that's a good thinking ahead. All right, so we got state, name, email, date of birth. How about favorite food or cuisine, favorite cuisine? Cuisine, I don't know, maybe. And then I'm actually gonna just make this DOB.
Why is it, in capitals?
Shows that it's a constant. That's what my linter's doing. Like a don't mutate this or change this constant. Okay, so we got that. So this is like a select bar, right? What about a radio button? What can we think of?
Favorite color?
Favorite color? Yeah, let's only make 3, so we'll say favorite primary. Kind of a cheap thing. And that seems like this is going to be a pretty hefty form already, right? So maybe we'll do more if we have a lot of time for it. We only have about 55 more minutes to lunch, and then it's like independent work, so that seems like enough. We're not going to do gender for now, but that would have been good instead of favorite primary. And it's too many options to write. I only want to do 3. Okay, so we've got our name, and we'll say we got our ID name. So we're going to need, what else? What else do we need in our input? Value, maybe? What should our value point to? We've set up our state nicely. Just set state.name. Sounds good. Should it have anything to it? Does that look good to us? All right, let's do the same thing for email. So I'm just going to pop it down. That's a little, not exactly what I wanted. Okay. Right, so now we've got our name, we've got our email, looking good. Let's get this to work. Yeah.
If this would be
Don't we need type? Yeah, I'd say that's a good idea. Definitely. Do that here. Type of these are both text. See what our page is looking like. Well, we're not doing anything with it. That's funny. We should use it. Well, we've exported. Every export has an import. Right, so we can just go like that. The profile. And I'm going to just, yep. Somebody say my name. No, okay. All right, so now we should be seeing name and email. Cool. Not currently doing anything. Wait, because we're not changing the state anywhere, right? So let's add some kind of listener in our profile. So we'll do that. We can say handle change. It's an event. And hopefully we're getting somewhat used to what goes in here. What do we think might be a good idea? This does set state, definitely. Good first half. Second half, if we want to make this adaptable to different changes from different targets with different names, what can we do? Thank you, Neeling. So we can write square brackets. Event.target.name. And that's going to point to what value? Perfect. Event.target.value. So no matter where we change, the target name will have a name, and we'll say at that key we want to change that value. Great. And so where are we going to put our handle change? Where do we want to listen for these events? Yeah, so I'm going to put it on the form, right? You can do it different places. Some people like to put them on every single input. I like to just do one and use, what's it called? What do I use in order to be able to do that? Yeah, what's it called? What's that called? Event delegation. 10 points to Gryffindor. And also the other term is? Trey, nice. Hufflepuff. 10 points. And okay, so we can do that by on change. Any change to this form, we can do this dot handle change. So we should be able to see now that I'm writing Corey and pursuit. Everything is honky-dory. Awesome. Rock and roll. So let's go to the next challenge, which is date of birth. How are we going to do that? How do we want to do that? Yeah, Mateo?
We just do the same thing.
Yeah, we could. Then I get that little calendar, right? What about if I wanted to do it so like, get this thing? What if I want to do what Facebook does? You even have to do a bunch of select option tags, which is, it's all right, I guess. Do we want to do it this way or the calendar? All right, so let's try Facebook. So we have, it looks like 3 separate selects with 3 different dates. And we have to think about what's the best approach for that. How do we, what are some ideas? Yeah, Johnny.
Create a message. Do a for loop within it. And create an empty array for the question. The dates that he wants. Tag.
Okay.
Then function like this dot here's
Cool. Okay. Let's try that. So you want to create a function. And this is going to be called display page. And we can, do we want to break this down into 3 separate functions as well? Yeah.
Broke it into 2 functions, have the min and max. So we have to start your day 1, day 1, and then that one can be array.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I like that. So what Mateo's saying is our years and our day of the months are just numbers. So we could write a function that just takes in a min and a max, and then would fill in and make option tags for those 2 from one spot to the next. And then the other one would take in the array of, or it doesn't even necessarily have to take in an array, but it could. It could take in this array of January through December and print that. Yeah, does that make sense? Like that overarching concept? All right, so let's try that. I'm a big fan. I think display date, we'll just make it so it displays all of the dates, and we'll separate them out into functions to keep it a little bit more testable. So if we go display range, and this will take in a min and a max. You could say let numbers, I don't know, nums, the empty array, and we can say for let I is in. What's the next thing that goes in my for loop? I don't remember. I is smaller than max. Less than or equal to max. Okay, and then what's the third thing that goes in the for loop? I plus plus. Okay, great. The step. Great. Okay, so now we'll just nums. How do I add something into an array? Okay. Push. What do I want to add? I. Cool. That's all that is. And now we need to return this options tag, right? So we can say return nums dot map. What's map taken? Callback function. Thank you. We should be banging these quick. We're 4 months. We've been working on math. So we got num and what do we want inside of here? This is a little different because we haven't done much of this. Yeah.
Are we building the components right in
Yep. I don't need parentheses if it's a single argument. We can cut off.
No, after the fat arrow.
No.
To return JSX.
Oh, I'm going to write the word return. I'm not doing, parentheses are an implicit return. So I'm going to write the word return because our callback function wants to return something. What's our callback function going to return? Not if it's one line. Option. Option. And inside of our option will be num. Option. And let's give this a value of, I think we have to JSX this. I think we have to JSX this as well. Should be fine, right? My way off. Well, we'll find out soon. Okay, so let's test this. So inside of display date, I'll put a select tag, and inside of that, I'll call this dot range, pass in, I guess, 1 and 31. We're doing like, let's pretend this is the month. And this also needs to return. Great. Tab those things in. So what we've got here is the range is going to hopefully return all of these options. If things are, if we're lucky and there's no bugs, who knows if that's going to be the case. And we're calling display range inside of this select tag up here. And then let's just call our display date down here. So we'll say this dot display date, and we'll put that in JSX. See what we get. Okay, cool. Great. Looks like it's going to work. Yeah, we're definitely going to see the code again.
there a way to adaptate?
Well, we can use display range for the years too. Not sure how we can do it yet for the dates, for the months. Yeah, Mateo, question? Oh, okay. This is like not flat.
How can you make it instead of the drop down instead of the same one?
Well, I could add. I could just add one here if I wanted to. That said, like, A. Inside, well, it'd be an option tag.
Yeah, I meant like.
Yeah, this would be inside the drop down. If I make this an option tag, now it says day. But I don't want people to choose on the day. Maybe I'll make it disabled. Now it shows up there.
So all of your notes have a regular day.
It's yeah, so I am just generating the months as if every month has 31 days. I think Facebook does that too, though, right? Or are they like really crazy? February. No, February. I don't know. It might not let me choose. No, it lets me choose it.
Let's say you were doing a task with those restrictions. Like,
At that point in time, you'll be able to do that by yourself.
you do like a lot of if else statements.
What?
You do like a lot of if else statements.
Probably not, but I really don't want to like get too in depth with these like minute like what if situations because you may never be asked that, and if you do, you'll definitely be able to do it by that point. I promise you that. You could probably do it now if you like to spend a half hour like really focused in on it. Yeah. Yeah, Mateo.
Maybe it's a display.
Yeah. We definitely could. Right? We're gonna need another select anyway. Well, we'll go like that, and we would say year, which is fine, and then I could say year 1942. Nobody is allowed on our site that's older than that, and go up to 2009. Right. So now we still. Oh, there's some error. Where's our error? Something with our select.
Return one.
What?
As in like you gotta wrap it and drag it.
Oh. You mean like this?
Things like that.
Okay. Sure. Cool. Yep.
At the bottom of your return, you have this data. I'm wondering what that does.
So it's the same thing as what we were doing in the warm-up where it said this dot reverse word. It's just calling functions, method style, this function. And that function is returning JSX. Okay, so we've got a display. I'm not going to do the month one. I think like just going to kind of be a waste of time. It's the same concept that you'd be doing iterating through an array of March to December, April, whatever the first day of the month is, to December.
Use months as
Totally, we could use months as numbers as well. Yeah. Another very viable option. Let's see what else we might want to add. Yeah.
Is there a better way of doing the option tag or are you with this?
What do you mean?
Kind of like the output. The way I've done it is output dot push, and inside of push I create the option tag.
Did it work? Nice.
I mean, like it's just like
No, it sounds like your way sounds good.
basically display
Might be
range.
better. What?
Display range. Display range.
Yep, Jen.
It's probably what's happening, no longer calling this dot display date. The date is has this dot display range in it, and I'm not sure what's happening.
That's just a function that is calling another function. So display range is creating an array of option tags and being evaluated as such here, and display date includes that in its own return.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, it's a function that's calling another function. So when we used to have, like, if we had a square and a double function, and then we wrote a function that was double square that took an input, we would just call square from that function. Here, I'll just quickly write it. We used to write functions where we would say, like, function, I can't spell, function square, right? It took in a num, return num times num, function double num, return num times 2. Hopefully this looks familiar. So, and then we would have double square for taking a num, and we would just return, I guess we want to double that square, so we would square the number, and we would double it. We would call double. So it's just doing that same thing. It's just a function that calls out another function from inside of it. Yeah, Leo.
In the option, why we put disabled on a
I don't want anybody to be able to click on day or month or a year. I don't want to deal with that.
But we can't see it anymore. So
Yeah, that's.
You can see it when you click on it. So Facebook automatically does it so it's on the right date, but you could also set that up. But I'm not gonna do specs based off of our imagination. If you want to get in the weeds with me on some, like, deep specific things, I'm happy to do that together sometime outside of lecture. Yeah, if it's equal to date.now. Or date.to local time string. Yeah, we're not doing it. Although it is extremely tempting, right? We're all problem solvers, so whenever we hear any kind of problem that could exist, we all like, let's do it. But I do want us to continue to learn React, and not so much how to beat specs. Okay, so let's make sure we're still hitting our things correctly, because maybe we're not anymore, right? So in our handle change, the debugger, save it. Let's go to 4. Do we hit this? Yep. And it's going to be event.target.name. Oh, we didn't give our select a name. Maybe we want to. Right, but maybe if we're doing it like this, maybe it'll be easier. Well, for sure it'll be easier if we just keep track of date as 3 separate things and join them somewhere else sometime. Right, because DOB, it's like, what kind of string? Is it going to be the day and the year? And where are we going to join that? Or do we just want to add to our state day and year, which will be even easier? So I'm gonna go with that one. I'm gonna just keep zipping. So we're gonna say day points to that, and year points to that. And when I go to do my submission someday, I'll concat them all together to be a nice, beautiful string. And that way I'll just keep it easy for right now. And so inside of my select, we can give it a name. We can say name. It's going to be day. Oops. Day. This select name is going to be year, right? And we could do that pre-check. So like if somebody already had put in a day in the past or something, we can do that value. Oops. This dot state dot day value. This dot state dot year. Okay, that pre-selects it if a user's already put themselves in. Cool, capiche? Yeah? All right. So we've taken care of, and for now I'm gonna also just render our state in console log. We don't have to hit the debugger, but we can see things working. And we'll just hit our debugger we'll just put in the debugger if something seems peculiar about what we're expecting to see. Day is working, year is working, name is working, email is working. Cool. So we're doing pretty good with our update. Yeah? Happy? Totally upset? Close? Both.
I know we're not doing one.
No, I'm not gonna do it. It's essentially the same concept, yeah. Okay, so now we've decided that we also wanted to do favorite cuisine. Oh yeah, we'll skip that. We don't need that. Nobody cares what the person's gonna eat. And we'll keep it and get rid of favorite primary, and we'll just be very short with the number of cuisines we list. Yeah, that's what we'll do. This can be a radio button. We'll just say that it's going to be either Chinese, Italian,
An Indian.
sure, an Indian, sure. Oh, that's a hard choice. I like Thai. Thai food's my favorite. So. I know. I happen to have married a Thai person. Totally, just like what a coincidence. It's awesome. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, the food is so good. Okay. So we'll go into our input. we can say input, and we'll say type. What type is this? Play that song on the, that's right. So we're gonna do radio button. We'll say, I'm done with the labels. They're gonna take too long. Nah, I'll still do them. Okay, we can fly, right? We'll say radio, radio. And what else goes in here? Name. What's the name of a radio button? What should be our name? We actually have it already. We should know. This one's not a creative decision. Right? Name is how we're handling our change. So it has to be, since we're going to use event.target.name, it has to align with a key in our state. So the key in our state is favorite cuisine. So that's the name. Favorite cuisine. Our value, however, can be whatever we already agreed on. Chinese. I'm really afraid I'm going to misspell one of these. And that's good. We can do, what else should we do in here? Anything? I guess we need an ID because I did add a label. Oh, well, this should be for Chinese. Hi. Oh, no. Should I, what about selected and stuff? Do we care? I will pose the question again. Is there anything else that should go in this input? Do we care about the selected stuff? Or checked, or whatever the word is?
Maybe checked.
Checked? Do we remember the syntax for that? Checked if it's true. Tell me more. Yeah, sure. Okay, so we will say checked. Put it here. Checked. And then we have to decide whether or not this is true or false. How can we check?
Is that state? Favorite cuisine.
Yeah.
Triple.
Awesome. This dot state dot favorite cuisine triple equals Chinese. So if it's equal to Chinese, we want this to be checked. Max. Just so cool. I fell asleep with my arms behind my head yesterday, and then I woke up this morning and I couldn't move my arms because they'd both fallen asleep. It was extremely painful. Yeah, Jen. Radio button will be blue. It will have been checked. So we can visually see it. So if we go here, we get radio. Now it's checked. I guess in this coloring it's black. But I can't uncheck it right now because I don't have another radio button yet. Yep.
I understand the words that you're saying. I just don't understand what it's checking. Like, I'm trying to say a different word. Don't say check. What is it verifying that it's Chinese? Like, where is that happening and what is it?
First up, this button should say Chinese. It's happening right here. It's looking into our state and seeing if the key favorite cuisine points to the value of Chinese. If it does the attribute checked pointing to true. This would evaluate to something. This either evaluates to true or false.
How is it getting favorite cuisine to show Chinese? How is that happening? The state of favorite.
We have in our state, we have a key called favorite cuisine that's currently starting as an empty string. When we click on that radio button, that goes into the handle change event that's listening for that on change on the form. We hit, I guess it was the first thing we wrote. We hit this function. The event's target name is Chinese. Or no, it's actually favorite cuisine. The event's target's value is Chinese. So then in our state, it will say favorite cuisine, Chinese. So when it calls re-render after the change of state, it says, hey, is this.state.favorite cuisine equal to Chinese? Which it will now say true. Cool, that's it.
So just to confirm, the checked attribute what makes that radio button have a dot in it or not.
That's right.
But that's not happening until it checks it right here where it's saying, hey, is this favorite cuisine equal to this checkbook box value or radio button value? And then that's that favorite cuisine equals Chinese. So how does that happen? It's trying to check box, the HTML element itself coming in on change.
Well, after the set it changes, set state, merges state, hits calls render, and then this is how it renders. It has to re-render.
So it goes from set state to setting the radio button to check, to then checking if the radio button is checked.
Well, it's not checking, it's updating favorite cuisine to the word Chinese in the change.
In the set state.
Yeah, so when we, hang on, let me just do it so I have two buttons to play with and fix the spelling of Chinese here. Italian, I can't spell anything. Okay. Italian, right? So I have two radio buttons here, Chinese and Italian. Our state is empty, as we can see from here. State is still empty. Okay. I don't want this. Now, when I click on this, what's going to happen? Can somebody outline to me what will happen? Davey. No, you haven't spoken much today. Neither is Neeleen. Neeleen, yours next. Okay, yeah.
Is that calls a function, which then proceeds the set state, so it changes the value of favorite cuisine to whatever value you gave that tag, that radio button, which is Chinese.
Okay.
And then render as happen. And in render, you have the evaluation of this not state that favorite cuisine does equal the value which updated previously means. If it's true, that's true.
Perfect. Although it was a little quiet, so I'm going to repeat it all. But that, you nailed it. So you should know personally that you've got it down. So as soon as we click this, David said we're going to hit an event will have fired, right? That event being a change of some sort because we're making a change. Now that's going to bubble up and hit the form, which is listening for a change. And I'll be following along here. Our form is listening for this, and it's calling this callback function, handle change. Inside of handle change, we have access to our event as well as our state and all that. And we're saying, hey, we want to set the state at this key in the state to then have this value in the state. The key for this situation is event.target.name. Since we've clicked on this button inside of our input, the name of this is favorite cuisine. The value of this is Chinese. This is the event. So this basically says set state at favorite cuisine pointing to Chinese. Set state merges the two state, the current state, and updates it. So now favorite cuisine in our state is going to say Chinese. Set state then also calls to render. Render renders this. And when we get to this line, it says, hey, if this.state.favorite cuisine, which evaluates to the string Chinese, if that's equal to the string Chinese, that attribute is checked. So this becomes true. So checked is true. Goes to the next one, and it says this.state.favorite cuisine, which evaluates to the string of Chinese. And it says, is the string of Chinese the same as the string of Italian? That's false. So checked is pointing to false. Yeah, Matteo.
Perfect explanation, awesome. So just confirm that check equals this state favorite. We remove that. It's not going to work. It's not going to show.
If we remove what?
Check equals.
It will still show, but it won't be showing dependent on our state. It'll be showing on the default of a radio button.
We can get the values from there.
Well, we can. So why is this important? I filled this out, and I said my favorite food was Chinese because that was as close to Thai as I could get with these two options. And so, and I've submitted it, right? I have Corey here and all that, and I have Pursuit, the weirdest email there, and I have my birthday. I'm 100, so that would be, that's not even on here. And I want to edit my page, and I click on this edit button. Now my form's pre-filled, because if it goes back to being blank, it's going to be really annoying. If Chinese is also, if that's what my form looks like when I go to edit my own page, it's like, oh, I have to edit everything about me. When really I just wanted to correct the spelling in my biography. So by having it pre-selected, this would be coming in, which we'll eventually get with, like, we'll be requesting information from a database on a user, and we'll pre-fill these. So if this said Chinese at the top, and this said Corey, and my email, which was, let's say I spelled it wrong, so that's really why I wanted to change. Pursuit, did I spell it? No, I did spell that wrong, right? Okay, good. If I save and I refresh my page, right? Oh, everything's already filled out. But if I don't have that, then these will be empty still. Yeah, Matteo.
Right, so it's changing it from the state.
It's not changing it, it's getting its information of whether or not it's checked based off of the state.
Like default value.
It's deciding whether or not if it's checked based off of if that state's value is equivalent to its value. Yeah, Nilene.
Is this kind of similar to how you would inside handle change you would normally put this state that whatever the new keyword is, like it would equals true suddenly, and on top of you start it as favorite cuisine was false, and then on change now favorite cuisine was true.
Favorite cuisine is currently a radio button, so it's either going to be Chinese or Italian. I want to get to the root of your question.
Is it like when you inside the handle change, you would put this not set states?
It's no, I mean it's not the same. It's purely checking. This is doing nothing to the state ever. It's only being updated from our state. This doesn't change state. The only thing that changes state is our set state. Happens if we make a change to this, we hit set state, and that makes a change, but this visually reflects our state. Yeah, Jen. Right there. Line, I can't tell. 15.
So this is kind of like the medium between what it actually is and what the user is like seeing.
Oh, I don't know. It's not the way I look at it necessarily, but if it makes sense that way, then I think yeah. It's just listening. The handle change just happens if we've made a change in the form. It updates the state. The items in render reflect what we have in our state.
So what I'm asking is when we do have a change, it doesn't actually like change anything in our code. Like always empty strings, right?
Nope, it updates the state. So we can see here, if I go to Italian, we'll have printed out Italian. If I go here, it prints out Chinese. If I go here, I can change to pursuit.
It updates the state in the virtual DOM, not the batch.
Yeah. I mean, it updates the state of that, which is being visualized by, to us, we're seeing the real DOM. The virtual DOM is just it's doing a diffing algorithm between itself and the real DOM, and it just is changing any of the changes that happen. So it doesn't have to re-render everything. But we don't have to like get caught up on like exactly how that's happening. Whoa, that was close. I'm not sure. Yeah, go for it. Maybe this will help.
I want to ask you.
That's all right. It might help with a different answer.
So we put the check state scenes.
Yeah, I think you could. You might not necessarily need to, so it's not that much writing, but because you still have to pass something in, you might as well write it. But yeah,
So like small jobs, like inline.
small job might as well. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, try.
The handle change function, literally just updating the state, so like change everything from string to
Exactly. Yeah. What Trey said is handle change is just updating the state. It's calling set state, which updates the state and calls re-render. Totally. Nailed it. Yeah.
you see your render function,
Which function?
is that where you're calling the console log? Your console log is state.
Oh yeah, I'm just inside of render there. Putting debugger in render is good sometimes, but can get kind of annoying because like every time I type a letter, it's going to re-render. So it's like so many bug debugs. Okay. Let's try another thing. Okay, so lastly in our form, let's add an input for submission. So we're going to say input type. What's a good type for this? Submit. And then I give it a value. I'm going to have it say submit. Great. Yeah.
Is it a preference thing? I'd rather have like an input submit other than button submit.
I think, yeah, it's a preference thing for me, yeah.
But then I need to conform it to it.
Yeah, that's okay with me. You always have to have on submit on your form. That's like where it's supposed to go. So yeah, so when I click submit, that's going to cause an event. So we can catch that event on the form. So I'm going to say on submit. It's going to be listening for a submission, and I will do this dot handle submit, and let's write that function. We'll write it way up top with our handle change. Takes in the event. So when this fires, we want to stop the default action of a form. What's the default action of a form? Refreshes a page and has a method post to it, and it fills up our URL with some kind of query string, and it's just not what we want to happen. Yeah.
So if we got a handler on the button directly, it's on click, but if it's on the form, the button is contained in the form, it's on submit.
Yeah, if that button is supposed to submit it, it should be listening for on submit.
And that goes for if the button is a type submit or if the button is an input.
Yeah, button type submit. What?
That's the same thing.
Well, if it's not type submit, I don't think it will automatically send a submission. But then people won't be able to hit enter and stuff.
Adding more things. On submit.
Right, well, if it's a button that's not inside of a form, you're not submitting anything. You're not sending anything back. You just might be wanting to fire off a different action. On click, yeah. So how can I prevent that default behavior? Nice. Event dot prevent default. Event dot prevent default. Right? Comes with a cool song. Super tight. And we'll hit our debugger after that, and let's try. Let's see what we've got working here. Console. We'll make a name. Let's say Miami, and we'll say Miami. Miami likes Stallion. Submit. We're here, and now we can still now we could do whatever we want. So if we wanted to set the state, we could. If we wanted to not set the state, but send an Axios request to the back end, we could do that. Yeah.
Just on something like this, it is the first, if someone works on the first, they did change it. Not going to provide that. They did this.
Yeah. For as how we've set it up at the moment, yeah. Good observation. He's saying if we don't change the date, like if somebody was born on the 1st of 1942, we're not currently capturing that. So, and there's some ways around that. We could just add in our state what that's going to be. My profile.js, yep. Oh, and it is it is now lunch time. So,
Tomorrow's professional skills workshop is where? very similar to what we have at Twitter. We're gonna have a bunch of engineers coming in mostly from just work. And they'll be working with you, whiteboarding and behavioral interviews. They'll also be a panel discussion, so please be on time and be ready to work, take advantage of the opportunity. Especially, as a whiteboard. So because of the time constraint, both on just work engineer side and on our side, not every single person will get a chance to. It'll be a small group, so there'll be time for 2 people in each group to whiteboard. They're about the size of 3 or 4 in each group. But we're doing these feedback pairs 2 more times. And we're gonna try to keep bringing engineers to more whiteboarding opportunities. So if you really want to take advantage, step up. If you don't get the chance, there should be more chances for you to do it. But please, yes, be on time, be professional, be ready to work.
Thank you. Yeah, but I'm about to post a link to it. Yeah, no, it's posted on GitHub. Yeah.
Oh, no, so right here, it has to be one click, because you're clicking this on.
So it's type submit. So when they click this, what happens? And our form is so they can click it or they can even
Because when I click mine, it didn't like, I thought I was supposed to like remove all the information that you put in.
we didn't set it up. But you wouldn't want that to happen without purposefully setting it up.
Right.
We can go over. I have a meeting today, but hopefully we can spend some time. We can like drill it down. Yes, please.